All right, welcome and good evening to the Tuesday night webinar. And I'm going to actually get my notes together here, and then we'll get rolling in just a second. Um, Tonight, we're going to be talking about involving youth in safety and security, and we've been trying to get some things squared away with our broadcast on Sunday nights, and we were able to wrap that up. But through the month of May, we are doing a lot of scheduling of broadcasts and that sort of thing. And so I decided that we would actually do a couple of short series on Tuesday during the week because we had so many folks ask us about different topics. So we have a list of topics that we're going to go through, and hopefully you'll be encouraged and blessed by that. And if you missed part of it, or if you come in late or whatnot, or want to show this at a later time to someone in your church, you're welcome to um, take the video copy that we make and do that. I believe how the system works is they will send you an email when it's all said and done with a link that you can share it accordingly. So as always, again, thanks for hanging out with us. Our resources are available free of charge on our website, which is churchsafetyguys.com, and then also through our church security app, which is free to download, free to register through the Google platforms, and then also Apple iOS. That, as usual, we're constantly updating it. And again, that's another big area that in the month of May, we're kind of taking the month to update that and to kind of do a revamp and overhaul on that as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to starting to lose my voice. I was actually out today at a museum, military museum, and was working there. And so I ended up talking to quite a few people, and I'm kind of losing my voice. But I am going to go through and talk about this topic. If you have questions and you're wanting an answer, obviously, you can post a comment in your area, and then I should see that. And towards the end of this webinar, I will actually try and do my best to answer those. Now, like any other topic, this particular topic involving youth in safety and security. Again, we've had so many folks reach out to us and say, "Hey, how do you involve a younger generation? How do you involve teenagers and youth?" And they can be a very, very strong asset to any church safety team. And I've heard many times I've had or heard churches reach out and say, I just need people. I need a presence. I need extra people. And so we're going to go through some key aspects of having the youth involved and kind of pulling them in. Now, when I'm talking about youth, I'm going for probably 16 to 18, that age range, and then certainly also for some of us the college age. If your church has a college ministry, that would be a great thing to roll out. Two things I'm going to say real quick as a disclaimer. First of all, as always, check with your own church insurance company, your church policy, to make sure that everything is the way it should be. And before you make any changes, you certainly want to follow up with them and see what their guidelines are. And then the second thing is, as much as I endorse younger generations of folks being involved, keep in mind that if your church is an older church and you have more of an aged congregation, this could be an uphill battle, actually bringing in a new um, program. And I've heard some churches say, when they ask me, I kind of explain some best practices and some of the things I've done and had success with. And I've had churches say, well, that's really too progressive for us. And that's totally fine. I understand. I get it. You have to do what you have to do. But I say that because oftentimes churches are like, no, we really don't want youth involved. We really don't want to do this. And as a leader of the safety and security team, there's certainly some amazing benefits to having younger younger folks serve with you. There's certainly some things to look out for. But if you're having them, or you're trying to push forward and you're like, hey, I really want this, I want to set something up, I want a team um, of younger folks that can help do some stuff, and I want to disciple and mentor younger folks, then at that point, you really need to stick to your guns, because in a way, and it might not be the mountain or the hill that you want to die on, but you can certainly push forward and say, look, I believe this is biblical, and there's certainly some justification for having younger folks being involved and engaging them um, in this type of ministry, and certainly discipling them, because you're not just having them volunteer and do tasks. Um, you're almost kind of you're setting up a program to shadow and interact with them. And so make sure, the other thing too that I will say is, make sure before you dive into doing something like this, that your team understands your vision. Because if you say, hey, I would like to do this, and half of your team is not supportive, then um, you are going to run into issues. You're going to run into cultural problems. Now, when I did this, I was able to articulate and explain to my team, this is why I think this is good. And I didn't ask. I said, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to try it. Certainly, there were some folks that were like, I don't really know if this is going to be a good thing, if this is going to work. And at the end of the period, at the end of the time, when we were able to roll the program out, get everything running, and then turn around and come back and see what we had accomplished, you know everyone was excited about that. It was very motivating to say, hey, we started this program, we created it, it was very successful, here's why it was successful, and this is what it accomplished. And so then that brought quite a bit of latitude. And if you've listened to our broadcast before, I say relational equity a lot, but that really drove a unity between the safety team, and also the youth department, and the college age department, and that was a good thing. That really built into the culture of our church, and made it a great win for everybody. So just something to consider. And again, I don't say that all lightly. You have to decide what's best, obviously, for your church, but I wanted to share that with you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up here, I have a really brief slide that we're going to kind of go through. And again, my intent here is that this will be probably about 20 to 30 minutes, time for you all if you have questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So let me tell you about my personal experience real quick. I decided that I wanted to interact more with our youth ministry and youth team. And part of the reason that I decided that I wanted to do that was because I really felt like there was a disconnect between some of the folks on my safety team and the youth ministries. When I say youth ministries, again, I'm just referring to mostly the youth group. And I don't know, I think every church I've ever been in has kind of seen, there's certainly a polarizing thing. It's like you have ministry workers that are either 100% on board, like we love the youth ministry, or you have ministry or church members that are like, that's not my thing, that's somebody else. But I saw some of those folks on our ministry, on our safety and security team, and I did not like that. I wanted to kind of remove the stigma that, kids should be in our situation, in our culture. I wanted to remove the stigma that kids should be seen and not heard. And so when I kind of sketched out my thoughts on, hey, here's an idea to minister to other people in the church, teens, maybe disciple them, mentor them, coach them, and add extra awareness and security training into an area that we've seen in the last 5 years: trafficking with youth, all of these other evils come into the church. And so if I can do something that builds that culture so that there are individuals that can be motivated to be more aware, to understand what some of that is, and to practice volunteering in a church ministry and be connected, I'm all for that. And so what I did was I kind of sketched out my thoughts on it, very similar to this page, and I went to the youth pastor. I thankfully the church that I was in, I had a lot of leeway at that point, but I went to the youth pastor and I sat down with him and I said, "Look," I said, "this might be a crazy idea, but I'm going to move forward with this, and I want to talk to you, and I'm really passionate about this being something that we need to do." And so he was like, what is your thoughts? What are you talking about? And I said, well, I want to start a youth ministry program that interacts with church safety. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, okay, I'm listening. And I said, well, part of it, to me, part of this is the fact that um, those individuals that are serving, or those individuals that are in the youth ministry, some of those guys and gals, they want to go into public safety careers. I said, so this isn't public safety. This has never been public safety. But I said, from a mentorship piece, this gives them skill sets and builds a foundation to be able to say, okay, we're going to mentor them with public safety concepts and public safety ideas. And then also we will disciple them and coach and mentor them from a biblical standpoint in a way that engages and develops their relationship with Christ. So overall, and I explained all of it, and I said, this is really, to me, this is kind of a win-win situation, because it helps them, it helps, it helps the church, and it's just an overall um, good opportunity. So once I explained it and went through everything, the pastor was like, okay, you know what? He's like, you've thought it out, you've explained it well, and I'm good with it. And I said, okay, fantastic. So at that point, I went to the lead pastor and I said, I scheduled a meeting with him and I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And um, I'd like to do, and I said, I'd like to have um, your blessing on it. And so he listened and he said, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Run with it and let me know if you need anything. So I said, okay, fantastic. So at that point, I knew that there was probably going to be some resistance from either youth leaders or other people in the church having these kids involved. But the next Sunday, I went to the youth Sunday school class, and I said to the youth pastor, I said, could I have like just 5 minutes to make an announcement? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So he steps up there, and of course, he's like, hey, James McGarvey is the director of our safety team. If you didn't know, we have this ministry at the church, and he wants to talk to you about it. And so, talk about intimidating. I mean, I've been in, auditoriums and churches and all over, and speaking most of my adult life. And, when you're standing there in front of about 60 teens, it's still, it's still intimidating. And of course I had kids in the audience at the time that were attending that. And so they were like, why is my dad doing this? This is crazy. But I explained to him, I said, look, I said, we would like you to consider serving, and we'd like you to consider serving in this ministry. And I said, we always do AV ministry. We always do this and that. But I said, at the end of the day, this is another ministry that I would love for you to come be a part of. If you have any interest in public safety, any interest in security, safety, that sort of thing, I said, please come talk to me. And I would love to sit down and talk with you and your parents further. And so after I made that announcement, probably 2 or 3 people came up to me and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to, like to talk to you more about this." And I said, "Okay, let's sit down with your parents, and I can explain what we're going to do, and then we're going to go from there." So of the 3, I think we ended up at that in that first run. I think we ended up getting one, which was interesting because later on he went to um, he moved forward when he graduated. I think I want to say he was 16 or 17 at the time. By the time he graduated from high school, he had decided that he wanted to go into law enforcement. And so this was actually a good catalyst for him to see some of the things that we did, because our safety team operates very similarly to law enforcement and other public safety services. And it was just a great thing. Seeing someone come up through your ministry and regularly serve, um, it was a blessing. It was a blessing to be able to see the success of it, and to go back and talk to him. And then later on, the same individual, actually, when I left that church to start a church plant, that individual actually came to the church plant because he had gotten married with his spouse. And then we actually put him in charge of the safety team at the church plant. And I continued to work with him and help him kind of move through stuff. So here's the thing, like, everybody is always complaining about, we don't have enough people, we don't have the next generation, they're not really interested. The fact and the truth is, and I'm going to say this, and it may take a lot of flack, but they are only as interested, youth are only as interested as you're willing to be interested in them. So if you come at this with, well, I'll give it a shot, and you're annoyed, they're going to sense that through transparency, and they're going to be like, look, I'm not interested in hanging out with all these older people because they're treating me like garbage and they're not respecting me. If you come at it from an aspect of, I'm respecting these young men and young women that want to serve and have a heart for awareness and safety and protecting and responding to incidents within the church. And I'm not talking about like glamour and dramatization, because it's not glamorous. But if you can separate that attitude and support them and show them, hey, this is the love of Christ, this is what we're doing, we're serving together to make a difference in the church and to serve and help other ministries, that is just a phenomenal opportunity to reach a younger group. And you know what, when I was that age, when I was 16, I joined the fire department, and I was always out busy doing stuff, and that kept me out of a lot of trouble. And I truly believe that if my church at that time, I mean, that was a long time ago, but if my church at that time had a safety and security team, I would have been, doing whatever I could to be involved and to serve in that capacity, because that's how I feel to this day that God's gifted me. So let's jump into this checkoff sheet real quick. So church guidance, obviously you want to talk to your church insurance company, see if they have an age requirement, ask if they have any resources or guidelines, say, hey, I'm considering starting a younger attachment to the church safety ministry and trying to bring in younger people to be involved with the ministry. Do you have any guidance on that? And if they say, no, we haven't really dealt with it, that's fine. Just look for general principles that might be helpful based on the policies of your church and the insurance policies that they have. So you want to talk with church leaders and certainly ensure they're supporting and on board. And when I say supporting and on board with it, you want to make sure that there's at least a majority before you push forward. a majority that agrees with it, or if you have the youth pastor and lead pastor or senior pastor that are on board, depending on where that falls, that might be enough of a motivation for you to say, you know what, I don't need anybody else. These are the two key people, and they'll have my back. So I'm going to move forward with it. But you don't want to get halfway into it and then realize that you didn't talk to someone or you didn't clear it with a certain person that might get frustrated or upset and then drag their feet on the opportunity. So, like I already mentioned, discuss with the youth pastor the creation of the opportunity, highlight how it benefits the youth, highlight how it benefits other ministries. Anytime you can step in and develop something that cross blesses multiple ministries, it's just a good thing. I mean, if I went to two pastors in my church and said, "Hey, I have this vision for doing this to pour into the lives of young people," and for it to be mutually beneficial to my ministry and their ministry and themselves, and that pastor comes back and says, "No, I just don't think that's a good idea," I would really have to stop and say, "Well, wait a second, what are we doing then?" Because we're not creating entertainment venues for youth. We're trying to teach them about the love of Christ and having certainly an engaging and discipled life. So yeah. All right. So and then finally, with the church guidance, most programs can be effective when teens are 16 years or older. I've never talked to a church younger than 16 where they had something like this going on. But at the same time, I just feel like that's a good age of maturity, and that's what we did, and we had that success for it. So, and then certainly counsel. Does your church have legal representation? If they do, you could potentially connect with them, contact with them, see if they have any recommendations. Policies and procedures. Create an outline of things that the teams would be safe in helping with. So they're not going to respond to every situation. They could potentially respond to medical situations. If you have a medical situation, sometimes having an extra set of hands is amazing and a tremendous blessing. But things like cameras, greeting, even shadowing someone that is greeting, helping out with the kids ministry, being an extra set of hands for safety in check-in, check-out process for kids. Overwatch, stepping back and looking and learning. I mean, sometimes kids and teens can pick up a lot of social and verbal cues faster than we can because they're looking at how people act and how they respond and that sort of thing. Parking lot, if you need an extra set of eyes out in the parking lot, and let me tell you, I wouldn't necessarily put a teen out there by themselves, but maybe double up, like put a teen in this corner and someone else over in another corner, or have them work together with the person outside in the parking lot. There's just so many things that can be safely implemented and that teens can safely do without putting them in a situation that causes issues or jeopardizes their safety. So one of the things I did, create a non-disclosure waiver to ensure that the teens understand the importance of not discussing incidents with unauthorized people. They need to understand that, and this is the point where I would sit down with them and their parents and explain, like, I would like your parent or you to read it and your parent to sign this and understand that there are times when we deal with information that should not be passed on, information that's private with other church members, and you are agreeing to respect that and not gossip, not communicate in a way that's not honoring God and in a way that could be damaging to someone. The other thing is they have to agree, they understand and they agree, they will not be put into an intentionally unsafe environment. That's usually on the same document. And then also we have that conversation with the parent where we say, these are the things that we will specifically have them doing to ensure that their safety is an utmost priority, and kind of go through and explain that. The reason that I would spend a lot of time and explain that and go through that, is because the parent also needs to be reassured that you're being a responsible ministry and that you're being a responsible individual to make sure that um, that their kids are protected. They think of church safety and security in the news as something where you're responding guns blazing half the time and you're interacting with folks, and that's not the case. And you need to assure them that they're serving in a safe environment that's contributing to the overall success of the ministry without jeopardizing their personal safety. So procedures, when everyone's approved the new program, take the opportunity to present that in an informal or formal way to the teen youth groups, create a sign up checklist, meet with, and this is all stuff I kind of already talked about, meet with interested teens and their parents, create a shadowing schedule, put them with someone and someone that likes working with teens. And allow them to mentor the individual and kind of shadow with that person, maybe for a month, maybe more, depending on how fast the teen picks stuff up. But there's certain things that teens can do that save you time and energy and potential frustration. You come in on Sunday morning, on a Wednesday night, you're trying to set up the cameras. All of a sudden you have a system issue and glitch, but you didn't put the radios out for the departments, or maybe the radios aren't turned on. So, okay, I can send radios out with the teens and tell them, or at 18, and say, please go put these in all the classrooms. And I'm saving myself time and energy of stopping what I'm doing and running and going and doing something else to try and get ready for the service. So there's plenty and plenty of things that you can do that save you time and energy by investing in this type of program and allowing them to serve in that capacity. Follow up after the training period. So if you say we're going to do training for a month or 3 months or however long, follow up with the teen and the parent together, sit down with them and say, okay, what do you think? Here's what we think. And be honest and transparent. Maybe this isn't a great ministry. Maybe you're saying this was a fantastic ministry and we'd love to continue having you pass, but be honest and be transparent, because let me tell you, the last thing that you want is to say, well, I didn't really think they were serious. I don't really want them on this ministry at this time. And then they turn around and go back and talk about that to their friends about and they're embarrassed about how they kicked you off. And all of a sudden, or you kicked them off, and all of a sudden you're isolating them and causing issues with the parents and all sorts of things. So be honest, be transparent, but also be gracious in discussing that. And then finally, under 4 procedures, F, schedule them in the main schedule flow of volunteers. I mean, treat them like you would any other volunteer. You're going to schedule them. You're going to talk to them about their availability, and maybe in a certain crowded area, you already have an adult scheduled. You add them to learn and you add them to be beneficial in that area. If it's a highly traveled area, like a foyer or entrance or exit or something like that in the church building, there's nothing wrong with having 2 people there and having extra eyes to kind of watch and see what's going on and to connect with people. So that can be truly a benefit at that point. All right. So number 5, coaching. Give regular feedback on performance so that they understand requirements and volunteer necessity. So we want to have an honest, open, transparent relationship with them. We want them to understand, okay, this is how they need to improve and this is how they need to change if they need to. That's part of coaching and mentoring, is so that if they ever decide to leave and end serving in that ministry, they're better for serving in that ministry, and the ministry is better than just leaving and leaving a trail or a wake behind them of disruption. So be honest, give honest feedback, ask them for honest feedback. Trust me, if you get to know a teen, they will tell you how you're doing. So you can sit down with them and you can say, how do you think this program is? How do you think we could do it better? And do you think it's okay? Do you think it's helpful? And get that feedback, because then you can turn around and adjust it and make the program better. So under 5, coaching, be polite but firm with accountability and requirements. If you're going to require and hold a team member, an adult volunteer, accountable to the policies and procedures, you have to hold the teens accountable too. And you have to explain and express that when you first sit down with them and their parents, like, look, hey, we run a really tight ship here because of individual safety being on the line. And so you have to be accountable. You have to be responsible. When we ask you to do something, we have to have 100% compliance or this isn't going to work. And I'm okay with being honest and saying that, because if you're not honest and you get into it and those expectations are not set and laid, that individual, that team will not be successful. And so the last thing you want to do is to cause an issue with them because maybe you weren't um, as successful or transparent in talking to them about the requirements. And we would do the same thing, honestly. We do the same thing with adults. Like, we have to explain to them the expectations and what we expect, and what we inspect, and how we run things. Because if we're not doing that, then we're not going to be successful. We're not going to retain that person. And we talk about that a little bit in the life cycle ministry life cycle series, for adults. But now more and more we're looking at and talking about that with teens, and we are in the process of working on a very, very specific teen program for churches to support and offer resources and disciple in this area, because we have seen how having a program like this really benefits the church, and how it really pours in to individuals' lives, and really just builds an amazing culture in the church. So, all right. So number 6, training. When conducting adult level training, review the content and the educational level. But you know what? Include the teens with that. If you're doing an active shooter training, if you're doing CPR and first aid training, teens pick up and kids pick up more than you think they do or give them credit for. So treat them like an adult, have them come to the regular training, obviously make sure their questions are answered and there's no hiccups or no issues with safety. If you're going out to the gun range, obviously you could take them and ask them, check with their parents and say, hey, do you want to come out to the gun range with us? But make sure that they're staying safe, or invite their parents to come out with them and handle it in that way. Involve B of number 6, training. Involve teens in regular meetings and training events to build a solid relationship with them. Anything you do for an adult, 99.9% of what you do in training, meetings, events, etc., for adult volunteers, you can bring in teens as well and involve them. And show them the importance of, hey, we have a safety meeting at 6 p.m. on Friday night. I need you to be here because you're part of this team. And express that and make sure that they understand the importance of them participating and being accountable to the rest of the team members, not just you as the leader, but also everyone else that they're serving with. And then C, finally, encourage opportunities for discipleship with team leaders as well as individuals. It's not just about you being the leader and doing stuff. It's also about connecting them with other individuals. Like, in my safety team originally, there were so many varied ages of people with different experiences, different life experiences, and just individuals that were looking for the opportunity to encourage others, mentor others, or disciple others. And so from that standpoint, having them pair up maybe with an older person, maybe a veteran that's running the cameras, or one of the elderly individuals or older people doing greeting or something like that, that gives them the opportunity to learn from that person and learn from that experience as well and build a relationship. It's not just about you doing all the heavy lifting and you doing everything, but also build some ownership into those on your team and say, and get them involved. Like say, hey, you know, you're you need to stop being a crusty old person or crusty person and spend some time telling him or showing him or her how to use the camera system or that sort of thing. And obviously, this should go without saying, but when you're doing stuff with teens, make sure that you're above reproach with training, with serving, and everything. And it's always good to have one or two people around as you interact with them, just to make sure that there's not drama and there's not potential issues down the road. So number 7 on retention, take time to regularly meet with the parent or teen serving to follow up and ensure adjustment, adequate learning, and involvement. So maybe taking time would be walking past the person on a Sunday, the parent, and stopping without the teen there and just saying, "Hey, do you have any concerns? This is what I think." Quick conversation. Just wanted to check in with you and see how everything's going. And touch base. And trust me, the parent will be amazed, and the parent will love the fact that you're taking those steps in that initiative. Or letter B, as you mentor and disciple, excuse me, that individual, having the parent involved is important for accountability. Absolutely. Having the parent involved is important because, to be perfectly honest, you can easily, um, I don't know, you can easily get sidetracked and just kind of be like, okay, I'm telling you to do something, like the teen. I'm telling you so and so teen to do something, but they have no accountability from at home from their parents. Sometimes you have to work around that, but sometimes you can also tell the parent, we're kind of struggling with showing up on with this individual showing up on time for their schedule. Is there a way that we can adjust this or make this easier, and more helpful for both of us? And it's, again, when you approach or address a problem, think about it from, I know this is easy to say and sometimes really hard to do, but think about it from the outside. How does this impact everybody completely? And when you talk about it and talk about needing accountability or trying to fix a problem, you need to address it like, how can we make this better for everybody, not just the safety and security ministry? Because that individual, when you've started a program and you have teens, that teen has a lot going on, just like every other adult does. And as leaders, we need to respect that as well. Letter C, be honest and transparent with the teen. Ask them how they perceive, and then finally regularly follow up. So you hear, I mean, going through this list, and I'm sure you hear me saying a lot. Regularly follow up, check in with the teen, check in with the adult, check in, sit down and discuss. So this is a very interactive, very fast flowing ministry and program. And so as you work with that individual, you're building communication, you're building a relationship with that teen and with that parent, so that they understand and know that you're an approachable individual and they can come talk to you. And that's why I said this program is fantastic. It does a fantastic job. But I can also tell you that it requires a lot of time and it requires a lot of energy. And so if you're looking for a challenge, if you're looking for something new, it's a fantastic opportunity. But I say that because you really need to think through if this is something you want to tackle as an individual and tackle your church. Amazing benefits, amazing blessing. I don't honestly, when I look at church safety and security in my 20 years of doing it at my church, I have never had a program run as effective or efficiently connecting with the younger generation as this one. But again, it's not for everybody, and you kind of have to decide, okay, this is what I'm going to try and go with, and this is how I'm going to handle it. So thanks for hanging out. I don't see any questions in the comments. I'll give another minute. If you have any questions, you're welcome to post a comment and I will try and address it. And then, like I mentioned before, if there's somebody that you want to share this webinar with, or this communication, you're welcome to do that. After I end, you should get an email saying here's an active link to share it if you'd like somebody else to watch it. And then I will actually probably upload it to YouTube and make that shareable as well. So if you would like, at a later time, would like this information again, you're welcome to reach out to us. So there's no questions, so I'm going to pull this out and call it an evening. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. And again, if we can help your ministry in any way, please feel free to reach out to us. And you can do that through our website, which is churchsafetyguys.com, or you can do that through the Church Security app, free to download, free to register, and just an amazing resource available for churches all over out there to learn, grow, and impact their communities. So until next time, take care. God bless. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and have a great